Where's the beef? Imagine going to your local grocery store and having to choose between chicken and pork for dinner. The hamburger, ribeyes, and beef ribs are sold out. But if you got there at 7 o'clock when the store opened, you could perhaps get the one and only package of inexpensive beef available. All hamburger businesses are bankrupt, and you don't think you'll be able to afford the cost for your kids to raise a market steer this year. This is a situation no one wants to be placed in. However, recent studies show that the beef industry is steadily declining. Beef consumption dropped 13% from 2001 and 25% from 1980. This is happening for 3 reasons. The price of beef is increasing. More Americans are choosing the alternative vegetarian lifestyle. And the export of beef is becoming more demanding and popular. The cost to operate a cattle herd is gradually increasing, and the recent worst drought since 1956 didn't help. This drought pushed the price of corn to hit a record of $8 a bushel, or $282 a liter. This high price of corn has forced breeders to minimize their herds. There was only 90.77 million head at the beginning of 2012, a decline from 2.1% from the year before. With the decline in the production of cattle, the price for beef has skyrocketed. Ground beef had hit an average of $3.02 per pound, the highest since 1984, while steak cuts increased 1.3%, according to the National Cattlemen's Beef Association data. Employed Americans, most can't afford to buy a prime cut of expensive beef. A recent trend has been Americans going vegetarian to promote their health. In their minds, not only will passing up a juicy steak help them live longer, but they're helping the planet. Recent studies have stated that beef feedlots are the leading cause to greenhouse gas emissions. In addition to the gas emissions, studies show that it takes too much water to grow a steak. Some scientists say that the human population may need to switch to an almost entirely vegetarian diet by 2050 to avoid global water shortages. These reports are persuading many people to become vegetarian. What the one-sided reports don't show, though, is further research and findings that there are solutions to minimize the impact on the environment and still help people maintain a both meat and vegetable diet. In order to minimize greenhouse gas emissions, farmers need to be smarter. Grain-fed calves emit less methane and nitrous oxide because they finish more rapidly. Smart farming also includes reducing the amount of nitrogen fertilizer applied to the crops, improving the diets of livestock by rotating pastures or planting improved species of pasture grass, and incentives to farmers for implementing some of these smarter practices, similar to incentives for the electricity and transportation sectors. Incentives could also be in place for increasing availability of beef at a reasonable price for American consumers, while reducing the exports to other countries. While exports help the increased profit for the producers, many of the higher quality cuts are finding their place overseas. Japan, South Korea, and Russia, the exports were up 25% more than the year before. Americans are cutting back. We've consumed ourselves to a plateau, but the growth in demand is there for exports, says Chandler Keyes, spokesman for the U.S. subsidiary of Brazil's JBS, the world's largest meat producer. Even after the mad cow outbreak in 2011, over 1/3 of total U.S. beef exports were to Canada and Mexico. Adding Japan and South Korea accounts for nearly 2/3 of U.S. beef exports, and growing shipments to other Asian countries and Middle East and Russia largely account for the remainder. Some may question how these exports could have a negative impact on the United States. Most of the beef produced and exported from the United States is grain-fed and marketed as high-value cuts. Most imported beef is lower-valued, grass-fed beef destined for processing, primarily as ground beef or lunch meat. Further, the United States imports significantly greater numbers of cattle than it exports. The problem with reducing imports and keeping more beef in our country for consumption is that cattle producers would have to divert much of their high-quality beef to produce low-quality product to have sustainable operations. A possible solution, again, would be to offer incentives to farmers and seek more cost-effective methods in finishing cattle. Beef companies such as Tyson Foods, JBS, and National Beef are improving their products to fit the needs of Americans. More expensive cuts and roasts, such as chucks and rounds, are being cut up into smaller portions for a more inexpensive price. There was a loss in higher-end cut consumption, which created an opportunity for beef companies and retailers to promote those higher-end cuts in supermarkets, but in smaller portions, said Trevor Amon, Director of the Market Intelligence at the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. The beef industry has a long future ahead of them, even if more Americans will be ordering salad more often. Thank you.